Good morning. It's Mitch Beinhacker. I'm an attorney in Clark, New Jersey, business lawyer. I work with small business owners, and this is today's Thursday morning legal update. Um, so I was talking to a friend, a colleague of mine, who's actually going to be on my podcast in the fall, and we just recorded our episode, and we were talking about purchasing a business. So she thought that would be something good to talk about. So there are people coming out of this whole crisis who have some money squirreled away. Maybe they lost their job. Maybe they don't want to go back to their job. And they are thinking about buying a business. So, really, the question is, where do you get started? So, there are in my view, there's two kinds of businesses, right? There's a regular business where you just go to the owner and you buy their business and you're buying their equipment and maybe their client list and their name and all those types of things. And you get a local attorney and maybe you take over their lease. Maybe it's a coffee shop or a bagel shop or a clothing store or something like that. The other choice is to look into a franchise. We all know there's a lot of franchises going as far back as McDonald's and in all kinds of different areas of business and things. You'd be surprised if there's an area of that you're interested in. You probably can find a company that's franchised, that has franchising opportunities in that industry. So where do you start? That was really where the conversation came from and what we started talking about, because my friend has a franchise and her and her husband were looking at business opportunities and they came across this particular franchise and they're very happy with the franchisor and working with them. So a regular business is something where you're really on your own and you rely on maybe your CPA and your attorney and mentors, advisors, and friends to guide you and help you and run your business. You got to set up your own systems. You got to have to you know pay your own bills, do your own marketing, all that type of thing. With a franchise, especially if you're not that experienced in business, it's almost like a business in a box, right? So you sign up for the franchise and it's a whole process you're going to go through with the franchisor, where they're going to want you to write a business plan, which is also a good thing to force you to do at the beginning, and submit fill out all kinds of forms and financial information and qualify and so forth. They probably have training you go to either remotely or on location. And they would have probably also a very large manual that teaches you how to run the business, all the systems of the business. And for that, you're paying either a royalty, you may be paying an upfront fee on top of that, and it could be several $100,000. I think McDonald's is like $1 million, but don't hold me to that. But I know it's a lot because there aren't a lot of those left. And there may be obligations that you have. Dunkin' Donuts, for example, if you can even get them anymore, they usually had development requirements. So you might buy a local Dunkin' Donuts and you have to open other stores over time. Some of them don't. It just depends on what you want to look into. So first of all, how would you get started looking for a business? You could look online. You could look in papers. You could network, talk to people. There are some very good business brokers out there. And if you find somebody, I would vet them. I would get references, talk to people that they've worked with before. And those people are usually tied into a lot of the databases and the trade journals and the postings and so forth as to what's out there to find opportunities for you in your local area. So, and they'll be there's business owners that work with a lot of franchisors. There's business owners that work with franchisees that resell their business. So it doesn't have to be a startup franchise location. You can buy a franchise location from somebody who's looking to get out. That's actually what my friend did with her husband. And there'd be many reasons that these people were not focusing on the franchise. They weren't doing a lot of money. And my friend her and her husband are killing it, but gangbusters, doing really well. So they decided to go that route. So if you find a good business broker, somebody who can find you opportunities, you start reviewing those opportunities. If it's just a regular local business, those are difficult to analyze. You don't have, any way to really verify their financials. They're going to give you financial information that maybe include profit and loss statements, balance sheets, maybe bank statements. But you're going to have to, go to the utility companies, find out what the utility bills are, confirm things from their landlord, all those types of things, to do your due diligence to figure out if, first of all, is everything they're telling you true? Because I've been in situations where there were some surprises later on. And, is everybody on board? Is the landlord going to give you the lease and all those types of things? So there's a lot of a legwork that you need to do to figure out whether this business is what they're saying it is. So obviously the person selling you the business is going to tell you it's the greatest thing in the world. It's your job to figure out what's wrong with this picture. And, you hire a good local attorney, a business attorney like myself, to help you with that due diligence, and a good local CPA to also help you go through the financial numbers and figure out what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. Do their deposits tie into pretty much what they say that they're making? Or is it the kind of business where it's, a lot of cash that runs through the business? So they're making claims that, oh, I make a lot of money, but I don't show all of my income for tax purposes and so forth, which is problematic in my opinion, right? If you're buying a business that operates on a lot of cash, it's impossible for you to verify that. So that's on the one side. On the other side, the franchise, looking at a franchise, you have a lot more protection, right? Because everything's been pretty much on the table. The franchisor knows what the franchisee's sales were. You have people to go to, franchisees, other franchisees, to ask them about their experience with the franchisor and the franchise system. And I wouldn't just go to franchisees that the franchisor gives you, because they're going to give you the good ones, just like any other references you get. They're going to give you good references. I would find franchisees on your own and approach them and tell them you're thinking of, you're looking at a potential opportunity with their franchise, and what's been their experience. Is the franchisor supportive? Do they provide training? Do you interact with other franchisees? Some of the franchisees that I know in different companies tell me that some of the most valuable things they get from being part of a franchise is their interaction with other franchisees on a regular basis. They may have advisory boards. They may have group calls. They may have all kinds of things, now Zoom calls, to help you run your business, because you will run into problems. You will fail at things. You will have make mistakes. But if you have other people in the system helping you, you can avoid a lot of those mistakes. So just remember that if you're, and I've said this in past updates, if you are an entrepreneur, you're a business owner, you're taking risks, you will fail at things. I mean, you're going to make mistakes. It's just a question of what those are and how many you can avoid. But that's how you learn too. So I like the franchise route, especially if you've never been in business before. You can find, you see a local restaurant, you see an ad, you probably can go to their website. They'll have things listed for franchise opportunities. And it's a great way to get into business without a lot of experience and have a lot of hand-holding. Now, there are, small franchisors that are looking to get started. They have a few locations. They don't have a lot of resources. I would be real careful about getting involved with those. I'm telling you not to. There could be great opportunities, but you want to make sure that, it's financially stable, that the franchisor is properly capitalized, that they're not going to go out of business. I've had clients who were participants in small franchise organizations. Maybe they had a location and the company had 6 or 7, 8 locations. And one day the franchisor just decided, you know what, we're done with this. We're shutting down. And it was difficult for the person to make a shift to getting her own suppliers, to, building her own systems and all those types of stuff when she was used to relying on the franchisor. So you want to make sure it's similar to buying a condo, right? If you buy a condominium unit in a condominium complex, you want to make sure that condominium complex is, properly capitalized, doesn't have financial troubles, doesn't have a lot of debt, doesn't have lawsuits going on, has enough units to support itself if other units run into trouble. I don't like French condo associations that have like 5 units. That's always asking for trouble. One of them defaults and then the whole thing falls apart. Maybe that's a good topic for another session. But the same thing with the franchisor. You want to make sure that they're financially stable and that they can support you just like you're supporting them, because you might be giving them 5% of your sales every year to support the things that they're doing. Maybe they'll be doing national advertising. Maybe they won't. Maybe they provide you with systems and support and training, and you want to make sure that your money's going, into not into a black hole. So that's part of your due diligence. But it should be easier for you to verify the numbers when it comes to a franchisee and the franchisor helping you out. Now, with a franchisee, you're going to have to definitely do more legwork. They're going to definitely want you to do a business plan. However, I recommend that for anybody buying a business. Put together a business plan as to how you're going to run this business. Why is the person who's selling it getting out of the business? Is there a problem with the business, or are they just nearing retirement? And that may present its own problems. Maybe they haven't been doing marketing and growing the business for several years because they are, looking to get out. That doesn't mean it's not an opportunity, but it needs your close look and due diligence. So if it's the time for you where either you lost your job and you can't go back to it, or you're thinking, you know what, I need a change, I'm not happy. We've been squirreling some money away. We have some money put away. We can look into buying opportunities. There will be opportunities to buy in certain industries coming out of this pandemic. Now, there's certain industries you're just going to want to stay away from. Um, you probably don't want to buy like a local restaurant that has to operate at 25 or 50% capacity for the first 6 months, unless you have the proper capital to get through. Now, maybe you do. Maybe the restaurateur doesn't have the capital to get them through the next 4 to 6 months, and you do, and you know that business. If you've been in the restaurant business before, if you haven't, probably a franchise is a good way to go. So I always tell clients and people that are looking at businesses, if you know nothing about the industry, first of all, why are you looking at it? And if you are, and you know nothing about it, franchise is probably a way to go, because you have the support of the people in the industry to teach you and to help you through it. If not, you're kind of flying blind. Now, there are things that are less complicated. Maybe it's a coffee shop, maybe it's a bagel shop, a luncheonette, some sort of a retail boutique that you probably can learn or do. But I always say stick with what you know. And if you do like it or you think it's a good opportunity, then maybe you need a partner. Maybe you need some people in there to help you. If you go back to a couple of episodes ago when I talked about business planning, one of the four major parts of the business plan is your people, you and your personnel and the people that are going to run the business. Do you have the right people? So you got to evaluate all that stuff and fit all those pieces together. But don't overlook the fact that there are opportunities out there now, especially coming out of this crisis. There's going to be people that need capital. There's going to be people that just don't want to run their business anymore. And you probably could make good deals. There's all kinds of way to structure a deal. If I wouldn't recommend a business that works on cash flow for you to pay all up front, because you don't know what's going to happen, especially if customers come back. But you can structure a deal where you pay them part up front, part over time, where they take some risk with you. And in return, maybe you pay a little bit more for the business, but you do it over time because you're transferring some of the risk to them if the business doesn't succeed. But do not do it without good legal counsel, without proper documentation, without doing things to protect yourself when it comes to taking over a business and finding out that it's not doing as well as you thought it was, or things aren't working out, because then it could really, I've had clients where they just got wiped out and they had to start over. So you want to avoid those problems. Again, I'm Mitch Beinhacker. This is the Thursday Morning Legal Update. Join me next week. I'm going to pick a new topic and another 10 or 15-minute talk. You can find me on all social media platforms, and as well as my website, beinhackerlaw.com, available for small business work, contract drafting, transactional work, family business and professional estates, and succession planning, as well as I do a lot of federal tax planning for high income earners and high net worth individuals. And I am also the host, as a lot of you know, of The Accidental Entrepreneur, a podcast that you can find on Apple, Google, Spotify, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio. So everybody stay safe and healthy and enjoy the rest of the week, and have a great, great Memorial Day.